Yo, what's good? Welcome to Counter Currents, episode number 60.
5?
Yeah.
Yes. 65,
Fuck yeah.
65B.
65B.
Because there was an A, but we had some problems. We had a great episode ready to go.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And then the record button didn't press right. We pressed it, but some shit went down, and we realized about an hour in that we didn't record. And our great guest was kind enough to come and do episode 65B.
Yeah, because we went to a fucking bar and got drunk, and now we're back here doing a podcast.
We did comedy. You guys got drunk. I got ice cream.
Speak for yourself. I'm drinking a Red Bull.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, Elena. I saw you pounding shots behind the bar.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Shots of Fronan ice cream with dark chocolate chunks. So our guest today, everybody, he is Jack Coleman. He is a comedian here in DC, and he's also a producer for one of the bigger outfits here in DC, I'd say. Do you feel that you're one of the bigger outfits?
Yeah, I'd say number 2, wouldn't you?
Well, technically, not in amounts of shows. Not in amounts of shows.
Oh, he has more shows.
You have more shows, don't you? You probably produce the most shows.
And I won't name number 1 just out of respect, you know?
You probably have the most shows per week, right?
Yeah, we have the most local shows.
There you go.
For sure, no question. 9 to 11 shows a week, depending on the week.
That's a
and with more opportunity to franchise if people want to jump in and run something, right? So you're like the Subway to the McDonald's.
Sure.
Yeah.
Eat fresh.
Be fresh. Overhead is 150,000 versus $1 million.
But the problem I've noticed in the last couple years is that new comics are lazy leeches.
Fuck yeah, they are.
And they no one wants to start their own show. Very few new comics want to start their own show. They don't.
Well, that's what keeps them at new comics.
Right. Well, yes, but there are
how
also
many,
some people
how many,
who develop.
How many new comics even the people that I'd say are a year behind me, the most of the ones that are good have produced stuff.
Right, you had your own show for a long time.
That's how I
you were
got
doing
stage
long
time.
Sets.
That's how I got stage time and how I got to know people. Is I started producing shows immediately because a way.
It's one of the reasons I took her on this podcast adventure, because I was like, this is somebody new that's actually willing to go and produce shit.
Or so you could get stage time.
Well, and she paid me and booked me too.
Yeah, I did paid. I got paid shows. And it was a way for me to get to know the comics that I thought were good. And it was a way to just kind of get known in the scene instead of just start
just sitting there leeching. Yeah,
that's right.
You can't do that.
I think that's really important for comics to do. And it gives you a way better understanding of comedy itself. I think it really helped my stand-up game in general.
Comics in other cities, almost everyone produces a show at least some point in their life at some time.
Yeah.
And it really, really helps going to another city if you've produced a show, because you know how to approach a booker, a producer, or a host. You know how to say it. If someone comes in short ass capris, Crocs, and a wife beater, which someone has done at one of our shows, and says they're a New York City comic, and then demands to go on, and then I research them, and 15 comics from New York don't know who they are, and then one's oh yeah, that guy's a Long Island comedian. It's okay,
I didn't know there was a differentiation between that. Is there a Long Island scene versus the rest of the city?
I have no idea, but you're not a New York City. You're not you're fronting.
Sure.
Maybe you've done some mics in New York City, but you're not a known New York comic.
Yeah, but 15 people, one of them would have heard of you. And then the 16th person. So it's other people in other cities, they do produce shows, but it's when you come into DC or you come into any city and you have produced a show, you know how to be deferential and nice and hey, I'd love to go on if you can put me on. And it's yo, bro, you're a traveler. We're going to put you on at least for a minute, host-guest relationship, right? We want to put you on. We want to have a diversity of voices. You're from another city. Let's see how this goes. A lot of times it doesn't go great. The city that is good in DC. No, San Francisco. San Francisco comics translate very well to DC.
That's really interesting.
Well, it's they're a sister city to an extent.
That is
You know where the bag tax came from? Fucking San Francisco. The straw shit we have to deal with. San Francisco.
Yeah.
So they're
shit.
Like fucking DC is like, you know, like a lot of gay people in DC, a lot of gay people in San Francisco. Like DC is very like progressive and woke.
Yeah.
And tries to be San Francisco on the East Coast. So those comics who come up in San Francisco and are good, like get the PC culture and all that shit, so that when they come to DC, they know how to teeter on the line and not piss off the crowd. Right. And still tell a joke.
DC's to San Francisco, what Baltimore is to Oakland.
Oh my God, that's so true. Oh my God. Oh my God, that's so true.
Nose.
Yeah.
The nose.
And I love Baltimore and Oakland. Don't get it twisted. I like all the Bay, but that's what it is.
The Ravens need to lose their football team.
Yes.
Yeah. Been there.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
That's on the nose, man. That's
you
good
know
stuff.
it. You know it. I'm gonna explore that one. That was a good reaction.
Yeah.
It's better than I expected on a Thursday night. But anyway, so you've been doing this now, ups and downs, everything like 5 years, and I remember when you...
Has it been 5 years since you started producing
4.5. It's coming up on 5. Yeah. Oh, I guess it's almost 5 now. I think.
And you've been doing comedy for since you've been doing comedy. You've been producing shows. Same number?
No, about 6 months in. So what initially happened is, like, obviously you can't get on stage. You can't get on stage. I knew the owner of a bar. I went to the owner of the bar. I was like, hey, I've known you since college. Well, I went to the bar a lot in college, so I ended up knowing the owner. She was like, yeah, sure, you can do a show here. So we ended up doing a show there, and there was another guy in the city producing shows. He was producing 2 shows on, I think, Tuesday and Thursday, and I was like, you know what you're missing in your schedule is a Wednesday show. Mm-hmm. So what if I did a Wednesday show, and I started producing that show, and so he like helped me put together the show and do the show. And then there were shows, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then one thing leads to another, as they say. Shit goes down, as they say.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we bring in like Kasha and Noah from their like Sunday show, and then we have a Monday show, and you know, things happen, and then we start having 4 shows, and then 5 shows, and then it starts growing. But the thing that does frustrate me, to bring this a little full circle to what we were talking about earlier, is that, like, ideally what happens here is that a comic who's been doing it a year to 2 years is like, hey, I found this venue. Can you help me run this show? Because then it's like, okay, yes, we can give you like the best practices here, and then you can run the show and you can own it, and we'll like help you like figure it out. But like now it's almost like comics here don't get how good they have it, because they haven't seen the shit show that is most American city's comedy scene, and so they don't.
Or they don't understand the like in New York, you have to have a show to get time.
Because, right, you put all your friends on,
yeah,
so you go to their shows.
Yeah, you put people on your show so you can get on their show. It's like really important to produce your own show in New York, because if not, you get
shit. They don't understand the shit show that was DC comedy in 2012.
Right? I know.
Like, I was a hot shit in my first year because I had the only Friday night mic for the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
At the Dancing Crab.
Dancing Crab,
yep,
baby.
That was the place. And now that whole bar's defunct. That was a 40-year legendary haunt. Redskins would hang out there and everything. But anyway, the point being, the DC scene has exploded, and now you believe, and I actually watched you give this talk at GW Lisner, a TED Talk.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Oh, yeah, you did a TED Talk. That's right.
Which was fantastic. Right. I was there backstage, and
oh, yeah, he was.
You know.
I love you,
so
Petey.
nice of Petey.
Yeah.
Petey's the best.
No, it was great. This guy was great. And they never put it on YouTube, right?
It's coming out. What happened is that, you know, college kids go on summer vacation.
Yeah.
And then we also went back and forth about the title for a while, and all this and all that, and I'm like, you can't put assassins in the title. Like,
that's true.
Like comedy assassins, that's cool. It's like talked about in the set, but like you can't put it in. Like it's not a, you know, SEO term, okay? It's not what we're talking about. No one like, so it was just we went back and forth about the title. We figured out the title, and supposedly it's gonna drop, I don't know, in September. I'm gonna watch it, and if it's good, then I'll put it on Facebook.
It was very good.
But if it sucks,
No, they should call it encoding failure because that was the big encoding failure because that was a big gerund of Jack's topic, and it was spot on. And he talked about, what we were talking about in sub episode A of this episode,
right?
The one that got not recorded, but anyway, about how we're at a critical mass in DC comedy. Like, this is a moment where we could seize upon it to capitalize on it further than what we already have here. Maybe get some bigger industry attention, some other markets, and really develop great comics here further, And he talked about that, and he talked about how, a lot of other scenes are encoding failure across the country because they don't do it like we do it in terms of like tons of mics every night, and the competition and being in the geopolitical center of the world and having really educated people that are in here to do stuff, and it's all around us. I can't do the whole fucking
like I
thing,
said in episode A. I think DC is the most special because people fucking go to shows, which in the main industry cities like New York and LA, the average person is not going to go to an open mic full of comics they've never heard of.
Right.
Because you just have the Comedy Cellar, the Comedy Store, and you can see the most famous comics in the world.
Yep.
10 minutes from your house at their open mic, right?
Like, I was at the store, and it was Dave Attell, and then it was Martin Lawrence, and then it was like Mike Birbiglia or somebody. It was like, I've seen all of these comic specials.
Yeah.
I will pay $5 or $10 to go watch that, and then they just post a list in the back of the room where it's like everyone does 10 to 15 minutes. There's no host. They just bring each other up. They just get a pink light, and it's like, it's amazing because they have a little section in the back where they'll let the comics sit there for free and watch. But it's like, I mean, it is a negative in the sense that, like, we don't have the opportunity as much as comics in LA and New York to, like, go into those shows and see an original construction, an original structure of a joke.
That's
at
true.
A high level.
That's true.
So you don't get influenced. So to an extent, while, like, the encoding failure thing, the thing that pisses me off about sometimes other cities is that you go there, and if there aren't muggles, if there aren't, like, normal people in the audience, then you're telling jokes to comics and you're trying to get a shock value, and that's not making you money.
No, and I think that's what I think is something. I mean, New York especially has this problem where there's so many mics. There's so many mics in New York, but it's you just in front of other comics. Mm-hmm. And what's going to make other comics laugh is totally different.
Yeah.
Than what's going to make an audience laugh.
That's right.
Comics don't buy tickets to comedy shows.
No,
they sure don't.
It's, and it's hard to get a gauge as to what's funny. Like, you kind of have to travel outside to really find out if your jokes are working. Like, I find like it must be really hard. But I feel like in DC we're really lucky. Like, I feel like here you get better faster.
Yeah. Well, Ralphie May once told Joey Diaz, you're gonna be a whole lot better, but you got to stop playing to the back of the room. You're just doing all this shit for other comics.
Right.
But you got to learn to work the fucking front and get these people on board.
And I think industry is starting to notice. Like this, I looked at Comedy Central with their Up Next, and they had scouts look all over the country. They picked 12 stand-up comedians all over the country that they looked at. 2 of them were from here, people that we know. 2 were from Chicago, and the rest were all from New York. They didn't even pick anybody from LA. Which I thought was really interesting.
And we got Just for Laughs, too. Paris did Just for Laughs.
Oh, yeah, a couple years ago. Not this year.
And there's, like, other stuff. So, like, DC is at the very beginning. Maybe, like, step 2 of, like, getting put on the map. Cause, like,
it's still early. It's still early. Not everybody knows. It's, like, the coolest people of comedy know that we're here. But
this
big
is
industry, big industry doesn't really see it yet. But I think I like that. Because once big industry gets in, it's just...
Well, you can hide.
Yeah.
Well, we can hide here in D.C., and there's the ability to fail, and fail at a high level. Like, you can screw up at a comedy club here, and it's not the end of your career.
Yes.
Like,
totally,
you can try
really
stuff
important.
out. You can be experimental. You can do that sort of stuff because, you're not ready for TV yet, and no one from TV is going to see you. So when you do get the polish on you and you are like a rock star, then when you walk into New York or LA with an agent or a manager and a credit, it's a completely different world.
Yeah.
You're not going to open mics necessarily. And if you are going to open mics, you're going in, going on, and leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you're the draw for the open mic, So I mean, in LA and New York, there is the notion, that like it's harder, and so you have to write more and you have to write better, and you do have to be better in that sense. But like the audiences just aren't there to make you better when you start.
No, and in LA especially. I mean, I lived in LA for a long time. I cannot imagine starting comedy in LA. And even comedians, when I've done comedy in LA, comedians that I talk to that are good, not famous, not people that have specials that you're talking about in the Comedy Store, people that are good and working at comedy and that aren't quite at that like high level yet. I ask them, how often do you get up? The average answer I hear is twice a month.
Ugh.
What?
Hideous.
Mm-hmm. I was opening at the DC Draft House. At the Arlington Draft House for a very famous comic, and very famous that my dad has heard of, and he gave me a really good piece of advice when I was able. He was so gracious. He was very
Who is
sick.
this?
Daryl Hammond.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Open for Daryl Hammond. That's
Sick
dope.
as a fucking dog the first night, and he still did it. Like, this motherfucker was so professional. Like, if I was that sick, I don't know if I could go on stage, but he was like sick. He was sick. He was not feeling good. He went on stage, did a wonderful 50 minutes to an hour, and then got off, did all of his impressions, did all that stuff. But he was also gracious enough at that level, essentially an A-lister in comedy, like not Jerry Seinfeld, but like up there, really, really good. And he took time.
He's a household name
and like
comic.
2 or 3 minutes, like genuinely took interest and gave me a really good piece of advice, which was, you can't get better at comedy unless you're doing it 4 times a week.
That's right.
So 200 times a year.
That's
if
right.
you do comedy 200 times a year, so basically almost every other day. So you go on stage, you do a set.
It's like lifting weights.
Yeah,
That's right.
The next day,
it is. It's like working out.
Open mics at the gym.
You look at the set you did, you listen to it, you adjust it, you spend an evening on that, and then the next night you go out. And in DC, like, I can get on stage 10 to 15 times a week. Is that a problem? To an extent, yes, because I'm not changing my jokes as much, and I'm not being as deliberate with the jokes. But like, I can write on my own. I can write in the shower. I can write by myself. I can't get on stage during those times. So, stage time is incredibly valuable, and like that's the thing that I can't get. So like, I personally want to focus as much as possible getting on stage and doing stage time, and then the writing, I'll figure out hopefully in a minute. But like, that's something that's really great about DC is the ability to get on stage and having someone who has done it at a high level and who is the second longest cast member ever on SNL behind Kenan Thompson now.
Kenan Thompson's been on longer than Daryl Hammond.
He's been on longer than anyone else. He's been on, he went from all that to fucking SNL.
To SNL.
You know that Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell tried out for the same spot on SNL?
No, I didn't know
Kenan
that. Kenan got it?
Obviously Kenan got it. But
wow,
like now he's the resident guy.
Yeah.
And Lauren, I was either reading an article or listening to a podcast, and Lauren Michaels was like, he knows how to do everything. He knows how to be the star of a sketch. He knows how to be in the backdrop. He knows how to set people up. He is a genius when it comes to that show, and that's why you see other people come and go and not be there. But like Kenan can fit into the mold of anyone on the show.
That's right.
And that's really phenomenal.
That's so interesting.
That's so interesting. Like, and he's very, by all accounts, very nice dude. Elahe interviewed him recently.
Oh, really?
And like followed him around for 3 or 4 days, and like met his mom and like went around SNL. It's a great article. You should all read it if you're listening to this podcast. It's in the Washington Post. Elahe Azadi, great article. But like she like did a really in-depth profile on him. And how do we get to Kenan?
Daryl Hammond gave you such wonderful advice.
Yeah. And so Daryl Hammond was like an actor on that show, and like I think wrote some, and then also does stand up and like.
And it's hard to stay on that show for a long time. I've got two guys I went to school with are on that show now. Wow. And so I have all this like insight. I heard all this insight about how the show works, and basically everybody on that show is constantly afraid of getting fired.
Wow, that's
because
great.
they don't care. Like they'll fire. I mean, I think like Will Ferrell was fired. Like, I mean, they just decide when your time is up.
Wait, how was he fired? He wouldn't immediately.
Maybe it was Adam Sandler. Like a lot of the big names on SNL who did well on SNL.
I want to say Chris Rock got fired.
Yeah, Chris Rock did get fired. But some of the ones who did, like Adam Sandler,
got fired. But Norm Macdonald got fired for poking management.
Didn't he say fuck on the Weekend Update or something?
He did. He said something crazy. But everybody on that show is constantly afraid every season of losing their job.
And that's why it's usually a good show.
But that's
like, if you're scared of getting fired, you're gonna work hard.
but it's really hard to stay on there for a long time. Because they like the littlest thing, they're like, nah, they'll cut you and just get somebody new. Like everybody's very replaceable.
That's
right. So it's really hard to do that.
I tell them, hey, you want to play it safe? There's always cheese in a mousetrap. But that's great. So people get fired. DC's cutthroat like that, yo. We're fucking bumping people here. Go ahead.
True.
Is DC cutthroat like that? I don't think it is.
I
disagree. I think there are people. Here, and now this is going to get kind of controversial.
Good. Let's do it.
But I think there are people here that have been doing comedy for a longer amount of time, and because the amount of time and how well liked they are given more time than people that are newer.
So
people that are newer. I'm not talking about myself. I'm not talking about myself.
Oh yeah, you've been doing it long enough.
I'm saying there are people that I see that are even newer than me. Even newer than me.
This is so interesting that you say this.
And there are some people, and I'm taking myself out of it. I'm not talking about me, but then people who have been doing it. Petey knows some of the people because it bothers the shit out of me. That there's some people that I'm like, there are so many. They were really funny maybe, I don't know how many years ago when there weren't that many comedians, but now there's so many people that are so much funnier than them. And they just need to like.
Are you thinking like way, way, way back in the day, people that stuck around?
I'm talking people like maybe 6-7 years in, and people who are maybe like 2 or 3, and there are people that are 2 or 3 that are stronger than the people at 7, and those people at 7 just need, and they're just getting better spots because of time, but the industry is they're just not going to make it bigger.
It's interesting you say this because I've talked to another producer about this before, and what this producer said was, there are just some people who are grandfathered in.
Fair.
That was the word that was used, was grandfathered in, and I was like, okay, interesting. That's an interesting way to phrase that. But if you're
a producer, okay, I understand that.
Which is one reason why our organization is different, because we started like kind of once the pop had happened.
Yeah.
And so it's way more egalitarian, and it's way more like it has to be in that sense. That's why we like did the whole pass list thing and like stuff.
Yes, but if you're a booker and you've talked a lot about how you want to see DC comedians succeed.
Yeah.
Right? If you've got someone who's grandfathered in, who's getting a lot of spots, but just at the end of the day, like the ability is just not there. Versus someone who's 2 or 3 years in, where it's like this person could really fucking pop off.
Yes,
and I'll name names as soon as we stop recording of like people.
Yeah, we all know who we're talking about, but like that's one. So there were a couple problems. One problem was I was doing all this booking, and like I don't see everybody, and I don't know everybody, and I also don't want everybody to hate just me. Let's spread that hate out a little bit. And so,
this isn't directed. I mean, this is, but generally, sometimes the scene will decide on certain people.
Right. What I'm saying, Elena, is that like we spread the hate out by having the hosts vote on who the question we asked them was,
you guys did this.
Yes.
Okay.
Who do you want on your show? Do you want this person on your show? And then everybody voted. And if you got 2 no votes, you were a no. Immediately a no. If you got 1 no vote, it was like, maybe I'll try and look at it and make a determination. But like, people no one else has done that in DC, and that was very fair, and it was anonymous. So like, and I've stuck to the list. I have an Excel sheet. I do a conditional sort. Those people get booked. The other people will get booked, the people who are past get booked every week. The people who aren't get booked once a month, once every 6 weeks, to see how they're developing, to see if they're getting funnier. Like, I probably wouldn't be on most of our shows, almost any of our shows, if I wasn't putting in as much time, essentially barking, bringing friends, doing all of the work to get on those shows. Right. Like most of the people on their shows, I hope they're funnier than me. Otherwise we have a problem.
Right.
So like, I think that like what DC is hopefully moving towards is more of a fair system of putting people on stage. And I think with the organization we have in our scene and the smallness of the size of the city, there is an ability to like really do something like that. In New York and LA, you can hide. You can do something dumb over here and then go over here to this other show. Like in DC, that's not the case. There's responsibility. There is a culture of discipline and trust. Like there is actual people, holding you accountable.
Well, here's my question to that then, just from a booker's perspective. Like, say you've got someone who has sort of been grandfathered in, who was like considered pretty funny, say, when they started 6-7 years ago, but now there's just better comics, but this person is still getting a fair amount of spots. How do you, and you're just like this, this person, you're looking at it, you're like, this person is just not as funny as certain maybe newer people. Like, how do you?
She's talking about me.
No, I'm not.
Talking around.
You know exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but like, how do you have a conversation with that comedian, or do you just like start? Is it like a slow fade? Like, how do you manage that?
So that's why one of the reasons we did the voting thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I can sort of, to an extent, I'm just one because I host a show out of like 9 or 10 votes. So I can be like, look, 3 people didn't vote for you, and I've had this conversation with 10 comics.
The same one that I'm saying right now.
10 to 20 comics.
Okay,
there was a lot of people who got dropped in who confronted me about it. That was going to
be my next question. Did
yes,
any people who've been doing comedy for a long time?
A lot of them confronted snarky emails or in person. In person's always better and more respected than a snarky email. Mm-hmm. But of those, let's say 15, I would say 4 of them got shook up, got their shit together, and I've seen them improve substantially.
Interesting.
Over the last 3 or 4 months. And it was like, this was also sort of a litmus test for those 15, 16 people, right? Because like they just needed a little bit of a push.
Sure.
To be like, take this seriously. And, most of the people didn't, and they just kind of rolled off, or they're not on our shows, they're not on a lot of other shows. They, kind of rolled off as well. They should be. Cull the herd, But like, there were some people who I had very difficult conversations with, who I view as friends of mine, and it was like, this is a career. Play the long game here. Play the long game. Play the 10, 20-year game. Don't play the 3-month game, the year game. Like, play the long game and learn the right way to learn and do comedy. Don't, let's bring this back, encode failure. Mm-hmm. Don't keep practicing the wrong thing. Practice the right thing. And so some of these comics like love comedy, and they just needed to get shook up a little bit. Now, let me couch this by saying, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm just trying to be a comic. I have no right to tell these people, who's funny, who's not funny. That's, again, why we have the voting thing.
Right.
I just find myself in this position.
But you're the booker of shows. But the other thing is, like Jerry Seinfeld says, comedy is like food. It's like totally a personal taste. Right? And I think that there's some truth to that. But at the end of the day, like, you just have to listen. Like, no matter what you think, like, you just have to listen for laughs. And there's certain people that it's like, dude, how are you getting?
Well, that's what I mean. I think it's a lot less subjective than people would want to allow for. The people I hear talking about it's subjective the most suck dick at comedy. Oops. I mean, seriously, like, it's same with music or art or anything like that. You can't tell me, the Rolling Stones are fucking
bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Or
right. Yes.
Something like that. Like it's silly.
Yeah.
And even when you apply this to something like sports, like gymnastics, okay, those people get docked on appearance. So you lose like 1/4 of a point if your fucking berets aren't in, making your hair look like a Martian or whatever. You got to fucking be like on point. The curvature's got to be there. Mm-hmm. And I just think that. Yeah, sometimes these conversations need to be had if you're a booker. That being said, I got to imagine how awkward it is.
That's
going
what I'm saying.
It
must
somebody,
be. It's a
like,
super. I mean,
okay.
from a booker's perspective, that's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah, you've been at this 7 years. You haven't progressed. You're half a Tom Myers right now, and how do you plan on correcting this?
Right. And you've got somebody who's like 2 or 3 years in, who's working their ass off and fucking killing it. And it's just like, how do you? As a booker, that's like a tough, especially you make friends in this game and like all that stuff. Like if you have a friendship going on or something, like it's a hard conversation to have. But I think some in DC, like any scene, by the way, and even like big industry is the same. Like this tends to happen. And how do you sort of correct it if you're trying to get a scene noticed as a group?
Yeah, we're not all Michael Che's here, okay? We don't just wake up and are fucking hilarious and spend 4 or 5 years doing comedy and then are on SNL.
Is that what happened to him?
Yeah, he was on SNL. Colin Jost saw him at like some show and then Instagram messaged him and was like, "Hey, you should submit a packet." And then he submitted a packet, and then
He's so funny.
Yeah, he's so
funny.
Every other word that comes out of his mouth is hilarious. Every time he's interviewed, he's spontaneously funny. He's so funny.
You said, but he's a good writer. Funny.
Good,
he's
yes,
so
good
funny.
writer, funny, and like what's the best? One of my favorite parts of SNL they've done recently is when Michael Che writes jokes for Colin Jost, and then Colin Jost writes jokes for Michael Che about jokes they can't say.
Yeah.
And the shit that Che writes. And then his reaction, he writes like the most racist, fucked up joke, and then Jost has never read it, and then he reads it in the prompter, and then Che is like,
yeah.
Like, I can't believe you. And it's so good. It's such a good bit. Oh, man. So yeah, like not everybody's Michael Che. You got to figure out your voice. You got to figure out how you do it.
Everybody has their own journey.
Yeah,
Everybody has their own journey.
Fucking Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Yeah. I like those movies.
Eat, Pray, Love.
I like that movie too.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Love Actually.
Oh yeah, we did talk about that on Part A.
Yeah, what an amazing movie.
It's a great movie.
Fantastic.
What's your favorite storyline in Love Actually? The Portugal girl?
The Portugal girl, man. They both independently learn the other person's language. That's love.
See, to me, the best friend with the signs, that's love.
That's creepy.
No, because
that's creepy, Elena.
He was creepy a little bit in the beginning, but he acknowledged his own creepiness.
Okay.
Told her he loved her.
The wedding video is just of her face.
Yes, but that's fine. If that's fine.
That is a little weird.
It's a little weird, but like it's a little weird. But the fact that he caught himself and it was like. And just like put those signs in the front and was like, "Look, I have feelings for you," and just walked out. Like I thought that was like such a cool, different storyline.
I don't know. Chiwetel Ejiofor is a way hotter, way more talented guy than whoever the fuck the other dude was, who I don't even know his name.
Oh, the guy who played the husband?
No, husband is Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Oh.
Like the white dude. I have no idea. And
British
then it was
guy.
What? It was Keira Knightley.
Yeah, it was
Keira Knightley.
That was her time.
Beautiful
she was big
woman,
then.
good actress. I'm obviously gonna pick Chiwetel. I think he's won an Oscar.
She picked like it all ended the way that it should.
Right,
and the guy looks
creepy
kind
dude with
the
the
guy
signs.
looks a little creepy, but like I like that he acknowledged his own creepiness. I was like that.
Did you see the SNL sketch? I think it might have gotten cut. It might have been on the internet where it was Pete Davidson doing the sign thing.
No.
It was a good one. He was sitting there doing the sign thing. Oh man.
Well, so I definitely think my piece of advice for comics that need to improve, especially not really so much need to improve, but the younger ones, is you got to get away from your fucking friends. I know we talk about everybody's class and that's cool and everything, but you got to seek some guidance from somebody that's like 5, 6 years in, or even 10 if you can get it. You know, there's guys in this scene, Randolph, Andy Klein, that come to mind that'll give you the game, help you get it done.
Yes.
And be transparent and tell you, all right, you need to take this shit out or put this shit here.
Right, exactly, because they're going to have heard that joke before. Like a lot of times I've found out, even still today, that I'm writing a joke, I think it's fucking hilarious, the construction's great, and then someone's like, well, in like 1993, so-and-so already told this joke. And like, I don't fucking know that. But if you have a trusting relationship with someone, they're going to stop you from putting in time into a joke that will never go into your special.
Yeah.
And if it does go into your special, you're fucked.
I'll never forget one time at Arlington, you were telling some kind of joke or whatever. And Randolph said, are you going to tell that joke tonight? You said, oh, I think maybe, like, okay, you're going to do it this way. You're like, I don't know. He's like, no, trust me. Try it this way. You're going to take out this or you're going to put it, I forget the joke or whatever. And you're like, okay. And then you go and you do it and then it worked. And you came up and you're like, wow, that's really good advice. And Randolph just looks, he's like, I know it is.
I remember that part.
Randolph always does that. He'll give you really good
that's
advice
the
and you're
part
like,
in my
damn,
head.
that was really good advice. He goes, I know.
Yeah.
He always does that.
I don't remember the joke.
Or I'll be like, you're right.
And I like that response because it echoes my point maybe like 2 minutes ago about subjectivity versus objectivity in comedy and how there are right answers.
Yes.
Better answers than worse ones in terms of structure and how to set things up. And it's not all just, oh, yeah, this person likes apples, this guy likes pears or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly think, like, I really agree with you about, like, I think there's a line you cross. Now, I don't think I'm anywhere close to that line, but I think there's a line you cross where you have sort of figured it out to an extent. And that, like, you know how to construct a joke, you know how to get a laugh every 10 to 15 seconds, which is the line. Mm-hmm. That's the headliner line. If you want to tour across the country, you got to get a house laugh that touches 80% of the audience every 15 seconds. You know, like Louis and Chris Rock do it 8-9 seconds. You know, Richard Pryor is notorious for like 7 or 8 seconds. You know, like there is a sort of scientific approach that is real there of a line you cross. Now, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but like you were saying with the Rolling Stones, with the Beatles, I can listen to the Beatles, not like the Beatles, but then be like, oh shit, that's a great song.
Yes. Yeah.
I respect that song. Right. And it's maybe not going to be on my, rotation of my favorite songs on my iPod, but like there is a smell, a scent that's innate that everyone can get from the time and experience of that you've done in comedy. You've done it the right way. It's clear, even if you don't like Andrew Dice Clay, not my cup of tea.
Love
but there's right, sure you do. Not my cup of tea, but there is definitely like I get it. I can find myself laughing at it. I do understand it. Now,
pussy, I like it. I love it. Fuck it. Oh! Tell me you don't like that.
I mean, I like pussy.
Yeah. Who don't?
Okay. Okay.
Welcome back to the podcast, Elena.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that's exactly right. It goes back to Sopranos. There's that one great episode. You've watched Sopranos, yes, Jack Coleman?
I have not seen The Sopranos.
No, there's
I
one
didn't have
scene.
HBO at that time.
Petey often goes back to The Sopranos.
Oh, it's so brilliant. But, one of the younger mobsters' girlfriends is interested in producing music. So they have this shitty band with the front man who's a guy she used to fuck before him, and he's like in recovery now. And they play this shitty emo stuff. And this is like 99, 2000, whatever. So they're in there. They do 64 outtakes, and then the engineer's like, fuck it, we're just going to bag it or whatever. Christopher's, the mobster's like, no. He's like, you got to stop being sober, shoot this crank up, and let's fucking do this shit. We've been slamming our hams all day. And then the guy goes like, hey, I think we want to just go home. And the engineer's like, well, you know what you need? He's like, structure. He's like, she loves you, the Beatles, she loves you, yeah, it starts. He's like, there is structure. That's what's wrong with the songs, no choruses. And the guy's like, oh, the Beatles, it's been 40 years. And the mobster's like, what, is he nuts? Because what the fuck, I mean, who's gonna argue with fucking the wheel? You can't reinvent the wheel on some of this shit.
That's right, man. And that is 100% true. And it's like, that's one of the things that frustrates me so much with new comics and with comics and with the whole like notion of like that we have a no shorts rule and that's our shit. It's like
everybody, Jack has a no shorts rule.
It's not a no shorts rule.
Yeah.
That is how you boil it down to a sentence. The rule is it's 2 sentences sort of. It's like if you act like you're getting paid, we will give you an audience that acts like they're paying.
That's right.
And so you need to, before you leave your house, think about what you're going to wear on stage. That's really it. Just think about what you're going to wear on stage. Now, there have been some comics who can get away with wearing shorts. Kevin Titt can get away with wearing shorts. Dylan can get away with wearing shorts. There are a lot of comics who could get away with wearing shorts because that's their character, it's a deliberate choice, and they're really, really funny. And it's the problem of when an audience sits down and looks at someone who is... I shit you not, I told a comic they couldn't go on stage and they flipped out on me because he was wearing Crocs, tall white socks, gym shorts, and a wrinkled shirt. It looked like you came from the basketball court and you didn't even want to wear your nice basketball shoes, so you slid on some Crocs and then were like, I'm going to do comedy. all due respect, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're not going on our stage. I don't care how funny you are. What the fuck are you actually doing? So it's not a no shorts rule. It's we can't control the sort of every joke that someone tells on stage. We can't tell them what to say or how to say it or that sort of stuff. But you know what? We can really contribute to controlling the mindset. And if you're wearing a school uniform, or if you're like really caring about the clothes you put on, you know what? If you care about the thought process of, I'm going to think about what I wear before I leave the house, you're probably going to think about the jokes you tell.
That's right. Yeah.
You're going to approach the audience differently. You're going to be less likely to shit on the audience. You're going to be more grateful for the stage time. Like the whole policy of like, you know, acting like you care about it. Like Seinfeld said, you know, to talk about another Seinfeld said, he's like, I wear a suit because it shows the audience I'm not loafing. I'm here. I'm about this. And it's like, yes.
I'm making an effort for you.
Making an effort, and he's a professional. Now, when he goes and works on stuff at the cellar and stuff, he's not wearing a suit. But when he is, like, filming a special and he's doing that sort of stuff.
Or when he's headlining and people are paying to see him.
Yes.
That's right.
And he's getting paid $100,000 for, you know, some shit. But it's like, take it seriously. And if you're not going to take it seriously, then why are we investing in you as a stock?
You're not supposed to look worse than the fans.
Yeah.
Or even the same.
That is what Steve Martin said. Steve Martin has a great quote where he's like, the reason he wore a 3-piece suit when he would do it is he was like, I wanted to be the best dressed person in the room. I want to be dressed better than anyone else in the room. And he has a freaking arrow on his head that goes out every other thing, but he's in this white 3-piece suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you believe he's the performer. Like, you know who I think is a genius at that? Is Paris Sachet. Paris Sachet is so good at, she has a look. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, I mean, she's also very funny. Mm-hmm. But I think that that's a big part of why she's been so successful is that, like, you remember her. Like, right after I graduated college, I worked for MTV News for a while, and I had to go watch a lot of bands. And after seeing a lot of bands, you go see a lot of bands, and I swear to God, a huge part of it is just who's memorable. Yeah. Like at the time, the bands that were in were like dudes who like looked a little homeless and wore flannel shirts and were all trying to be like Vampire Weekend. Those were like the in bands. And anything that was different like that, I would remember. And then the better ones than that, I would remember. And Paris, you're going to remember her on a show just by walking on stage. She's got a really distinct look. She looks good. She looks polished. And no one else looks like that.
That's right.
And she's just, and I've seen her show up to shows like in flip-flops, but carrying her stage heels and carrying her jacket that she's going to wear on stage. Mm-hmm. And right before, and like, I've seen her do it. I saw her do that at the Improv open mic. And before she got on stage, put on her like glitter boots and put on her like glitter jacket and went on stage and in performer gear. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these comics, I don't even think go to the barber.
Yeah. Yeah, you say that all the time.
Take showers.
Yeah.
Like,
you got to get groomed.
Yeah, bro.
Like groom. They think groom's just a verb for pedophiles anymore. So they think they're doing a service fucking negating soap.
Yeah.
That's
like,
just not
Christian
right.
Bale wouldn't be famous if, like, you know, he looked scraggly and disgusting and didn't shower.
No.
Like, that doesn't happen. Maybe Joaquin Phoenix is the only one who can get away with that. But, like, for the most part, like, you got to look presentable just in general. Like, I would never wear shorts to my job.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, totally.
I would never, like, you know, and, like, you know, as far as guys' legs go, mine are nice. Like I got, you know, they're a little hairy.
You got some calves.
But I got some calves, and they're like shapely. I don't have calf implants, but they're like okay. Yeah. And you know, like, but like I don't want to be distracting to my coworkers, you know, with my calves out or anything. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, like I wouldn't wear shorts, and it's a job. Seinfeld, let's go back to him. If you treat it like a job, maybe it'll become one. He has that great story about looking out his window and like seeing a construction worker and being like, oh, that guy goes back to work every single day. And like, he doesn't want to go to work every day, but he goes to work every day. And that's what I should do. And so he would like write every day, even if he didn't want to. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you got to have that mentality.
Yeah.
And I hope I do. I'm not gonna know for a decade. That's the thing about comedy. Is
you'll
it's a
go
daily
in stages.
slog.
Yeah, but
like
every couple of months, you'll feel like there's a certain leveling you do. And then if you don't get it after a while, holy shit, and I've been there too, you're feeling like you're just plateauing. And then you got to do something different.
Yeah, and it's like fear-based from what I found. Like
totally.
Like, for example, one of my favorite comics in the scene right now, and she's very new, is Christine O'Day. And that's because she has zero fear. She doesn't know what fear is. Like, she doesn't, it just isn't in her vocabulary. And so she just comes out swinging every time. New jokes, brand new jokes. But also, and this is, I think, the key with her, is she does not shit on the audience when a joke doesn't work. And if she does, it's in this, like, humble, self-deprecating way. It's never their fault a joke doesn't work. But she's also not afraid to go out on a limb and do some crazy-ass joke that no one else would try. And that's a huge amount of respect for her. And it's like, that to me is what a successful comedian looks like. I wish I could be more like her and be more fearless in the way that she is, because that's how I think you really progress and you get better, is, by giving zero fucks and trying new shit.
Yeah, yes and no. I feel like I'm in a different phase in comedy where I'm getting mad at myself right now, is that because this year I've been writing a lot. And I've been getting very attached to writing new jokes when, like, I can do, like, I'll get an 8-minute set on one of your shows. And I can do jokes that I know are going to work for, like, those 8 minutes and get the laughs I need for those 8 minutes.
Sure.
But such a big part of me is to, like, I have a plan and I'm going to do this new shit every time because I'm bored of the old shit that I was doing that I know is going to work. And at some point you have to say, I need to make these people laugh and I need to kill no matter how, if this joke's a year old and I'm over it, and if one's new or not, like, just make people laugh. I think more than, like, challenge yourself. And that's sort of where I'm at right now, is like, I go in with a plan to work on new stuff, and I should do that. And I've been doing that a lot, and that's important, but I think I should also focus a little bit more on just make them laugh, like, at least go for 2 weeks and just make people laugh every set the whole time for 2 weeks on every show you do.
And that's what one of the pieces of advice that Randolph gave me that I thought was really good is just learn to kill.
Yeah.
Like, that is where the money is learning to kill. And so it's like, there are jokes I've been telling since I started comedy, but I honestly don't think the joke is done. So fuck what everyone else thinks. I don't care what your opinion is. My standards are higher than what your opinion is. I know when a joke is done. I know when it's comfortable and it actually sounds like someone on a comedy special tells the joke. I know that.
Right.
I don't know how to do that, but I know what that sounds like.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know that some of my jokes, they're not there yet. They don't have the flow. They don't work 100% of the time. They don't sound like Tony Woods. That's like the person that, I think of a lot of the times when I'm thinking about my own material is this going to sound as confident and nonchalant and beautiful as Tony sounds? And, no, none of my jokes do. So,
that's okay. None of mine do either. That's a
He fucking writes, okay? And what's so disgusting about this motherfucker is that, awesome. He comes in with different material, and he just, like, one time at St. X, he walked in, he saw our sign outside, he was like, oh, comedy show. He walked in off of his bike with the click-in bike shoes, bike shorts, a yellow shirt, and a fucking helmet on, unbuckled the helmet. I think he still had his AirPods in. Okay? And then went on stage and did 10 or 15 minutes of hilarious material, mentioned his outfit, did the whole thing. Now, here's the thing. If a brand new comic who's 6 months in dresses like that and wants to go on stage, fuck you. Okay? But, like, Tony Woods is like, he knows what he's doing, and he knows, like, I don't even know if I believe him that he drove by and saw the sign.
Right.
It could be a bit, that he's doing. But, like, he did write, and he does prepare, and he does think about his jokes, and it's, like, it's so beautiful to see, and it's, like, I feel so lucky to be able to watch someone like that and understand what a joke is supposed to sound like in person.
That guy's just a fucking genius.
He's a genius.
He's a fucking genius,
I saw
man.
him bomb once, and it was the coolest. It was one of the sets I learned from the most in my life.
Did he do the?
Yes. Yeah. Where he hits the mic.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, and it was really late. It was a big hunt. And it was like at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, I think. And he came in, and the audience was really tired and drunk. And they were just not feeling anything he was doing. But the way that it was so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he kept clicking on the mic. And then I remember people walked in in the middle, and he was like, "Oh, hey, I'm doing really great. Everybody can't stop laughing." I thought that was the funniest trick. He kept doing like tricks like that.
Did he do the parade joke?
Yes.
Where the thing where he's like he does this thing where he's like picking up like a
baton.
like the baton thing, and he's like, "Man, I just felt like I was like going down this parade route, and I went right, and the parade went left."
Yeah. He did so many great tricks that were so. It was so funny, and the deeper, because it was one of those things like they were almost like not a savable audience. They were just like drunk and tired, and he just like kept harping on him and kept trying, and he was so mad at himself when he got off stage. But I thought it was like the best. It was the best bomb I've ever seen. It was, and I thought it was crazy.
Do you understand
funny.
what you just said though? It was the best bomb I've ever seen.
It was.
Do you know how good of a fucking comedian you have to be to have
bomb?
someone be like, "Oh my God, that bomb was amazing"?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. It was so good. It was so good.
He also
and as a comic, that's like more entertaining to watch
Right?
than a
Yeah.
good set. I was just
But
like,
a bad bomb for me is even funnier to watch. I mean,
I
me
can't-
watching it. I
hurts.
love watching like a really great bomb.
Like-
let me tell you something, because I remember back when it was maybe 2-3 years ago. Mason Pryor, this is Richard Pryor's one of his 7 kids. He's trying comedy now, and he went up on the Apollo, and they put it on Fox. He's 6 months or a year in or something, and he got Sandman, and it was just horrible. He got fucking booed, you know, and going
Did he rub
in.
the stone or not?
Huh?
Did he rub the stone? When you go out on stage at the Apollo, you're supposed
Oh
to rub the
yeah.
stone.
I don't know. I don't remember.
I've seen people not rub the stone and bomb.
bomb?
Like it's like a thing. It's like a. Anyway, sorry,
Oh,
not to cut off your
no,
story.
no,
Go
that's
ahead.
all right. But but Steve Harvey brought him up, and that was a problem too. Was like he was like, this man's dad is the reason I do comedy, and all that stuff. And he's just talking him up, and all these women in the audience like he looked just like his daddy, But then he got up there, and he was just not doing it. And I'll tell you something. If you fucking say you work hard at this comedy thing and you can't enjoy a comic like that bombing like shit, you're a goddamn lie. I dare you to watch that clip and not fucking laugh. And I felt a little bad, but I was like, fuck them.
See, to me, it's still. I'm not at that stage yet. I don't know if it's because I haven't been doing comedy long enough or what. But like when I see a bad bomb, it still like hurts. I'm just like, just get off. Like, just stop.
So there was like a year ago. There was this guy at Town Tavern. One of y'all might have been there. This is also like one of the sets that like is just in infamy, legendary. I will never forget this. This new guy, he was new. He brought some friends, and so he was going at the end of the show, right? And he had gotten a little drunk, as new comics do, because they're scared, and so he got a little drunk, and he like got mad at me for putting him on later, and he sort of got a little handsy. He like
really?
did a very threatening before he went on stage, like hand on the shoulder, sort of like thing and everything.
Shit.
And a bunch of his friends were here, and he was drunk, and it wasn't. I was okay with it at that moment. I was like, just go on stage. So he goes on stage. Let me tell you what happens when he comes off stage. So he comes off stage, and he gets even more handsy because I had to light him early.
Right.
And so he like puts both hands on, and like, I haven't taken martial arts, but I know one thing where you grab someone's hand and you twist it, and he was like, I know when I'm about to get punched, okay? Like, I run my mouth a lot, and I know when someone's about to punch me, and he was about to fucking punch me. And so I had to grab his hand and like twist it in, and then he like hit a knee, and I was like, don't ever fucking touch me again. But
I definitely did not see that.
okay, but what happened on stage was unbelievably epic. So he goes on stage and we've had the shuffle that's gone on for a year, and there's 30 new comics on the stage, and they suck for the most part. Half of them are suck and are terrible and tell terrible jokes. And you got to grow and get better. But they suck, and but they get laughs. And sometimes they get laughs because it's so bad.
You're
or it's
right,
awkward, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was on stage for a few minutes, and no laughs. Crickets. Like, it was offensive. It was offensive and bad, and so I had to like him. Okay? And then when I like him, he starts doing crowd work.
Oh, my God.
All right. And it's like his first or second time on
God.
stage, and it's like, you have no idea to do crowd work, man. And so he goes up to this guy in the audience, and he's like, hey, man, what do you do? And then the guy's like, I'm an accountant. And then the guy on stage goes, how long have you been thinking about killing yourself? And then the accountant goes, 3 minutes.
Solid. We got him.
And I literally fell out of my chair. That is the funniest burn I've ever heard. And an accountant?
That's amazing. You should have thought about doing comedy.
Dude, that was some shit, man. That was some shit. And, the guy, never saw him again. He came off stage, got hands with me, never saw him again. And,
well, at least he learned his lesson.
Yeah, don't do comedy.
Yeah.
This is not for
you.
you.
At least he was like, this isn't for me.
Go get a day job, work 9 to 5,
Sometimes.
come to a show.
Sometimes.
Petey, you know the line of yours that I say all the time?
What's that?
It's a lot harder to quit comedy than it is to start comedy.
Oh my God, yeah, it is.
And
man.
I can't take credit. That's Andy Klein.
Oh, is it? Yeah,
It
you're
takes
the one who
more
told me that.
balls to stop than it does to
Yeah,
start.
I found myself saying that a lot because, my husband and I, half of what we talk about is comedy because he just happens to love it. Thank God.
Yeah, thank
and
God.
I was just telling him that the other day.
Thank God for my sake.
Yeah.
After some of the fucking shit I've said.
Yeah.
Petey, what did you call me?
I said I thought
Are we
you
going
were
into this? Should I tell this full story?
on the spectrum, perhaps Asperger's.
No, I don't have Asperger's. I'm an
Okay.
only child.
Okay.
And so the difference is that I had no older brother or sister to beat the shit out of me. So I would just say whatever the fuck came to my head at any moment. And I'm talking to my parents.
Like me.
And so it's I'm talking to them and trying to get their attention and trying to do that sort of stuff. And also no one's telling me to shut up. So I have this problem with talking too much and saying dumb shit and just giving zero fucks about any social norms.
But in adult life, has no one punched you or anything? Like you've had to have seen consequences where you had to have learned a little bit.
Yeah,
from
but
your actions.
there's a difference between having someone sit you down at the office and talk to you and then your fucking jaw's broken.
Yes.
Right. Those are different.
Yes.
That when you're little and you're understanding the world and you're oh, I shouldn't ever do that again.
Yes.
And then you never do that again. See,
Yes.
those are not the things that I was necessarily punished for, was the social stuff. The stuff I was punished for was talking back and being a dick to my parents,
Okay.
embarrassing them. It was not violating social norms because my parents are weird people.
What if you violate social norms and someone makes a joke about it and starts telling it on stage? Does that feel like getting punched in the face, or how does that? Do you like that? Because I did this. Well, because you said something really crazy to me, which
but,
I've now turned into a joke that I'm telling
but
all
your
of them.
husband co-signed. So.
Well, because when I told him what you said, he literally, I got home and I was like, you're never going to believe what Jack told me today. And I told him what it was, and he was eating a pickle out of the fridge, and he was opening the fridge, and he stopped and almost started choking. And he was like, and I kept talking, and I kept talking, and he was like, stop. He was like, just stop for a second. I need to take that in.
That's perfect.
He's like, I need to take that in. That's the craziest shit I've ever heard. And then I told it to some other people, and they were like, you should make that a joke.
Right.
And I did. And I called you out on it.
Right. And that's
We
fine.
resolved it.
All right, because it's fine, because it's one of those things where don't shit on the crowd unless it's funny.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If it's funny, that's okay. It's a big risk for me to say something like that, but there is also there are moments where my zero fucks given about social norms is helpful. And like that's one reason why I love the comedy shuffle and like shuffling and like when I do shuffle because
interrupting is very important as a violation of social norms, and we're going to do that right now to bring you these announcements. On Friday and Saturday, August 6th and 7th at the DC Draft House, we're going to have Josh Johnson from The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, as well as Comedy Central. You can see him at 7 and 9 p.m. Hit us up at the Counter Currents Instagram, Currents DC, Twitter, as well as our Facebook page for a chance to win some free pairs of tickets to that, as well as to the Arlington Cinema Draft House's shows Thursday the 5th at 7:30 p.m., Friday the 6th and 7th at 7:30, 10 and 7 and 9:30 respectively, and that's Phoebe Robinson live from Two Dope Queens, You Can't Touch My Hair in Broad City. That's at the Arlington Cinema Draft House, and the same rules apply for our social media pages to win free sets of tickets.
And the more you if you comment, that is really gonna up your chances of getting a free pair of tickets, especially if it's a nice comment.
Absolutely.
If you're trolling us, maybe if it's funny, we'll give you a ticket.
You're great at reading, Petey.
Thank you.
Doing reads, dude.
Yep.
So
he's good at reading.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for
thanks,
coming through, Jack, twice.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
And if anybody wants to hear the other one, tough shit. But this was better, I think. Still,
I think so too.
Yeah,
a little lighter.
I think so. Yeah, definitely a little lighter.
Oh yeah, check out the TED Talk. Did we talk about the TED Talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, can people check that out?
Yeah, check out the TED Talk when it comes out. Check out the shows. Come by the Shuffle on Monday if you're in DC. Check out the website, capitalapps.com. We're doing cool stuff. We'll be doing broader stuff. The people in DC, the people outside of DC will be able to hear, but that's not now. But it'll happen.
Nice.
So.
Fantastic.
Nice.
All right. Peace.
Bye, everybody.
Roll Tide.